there is a quiet moment that often arrives later than we expect, when the noises of life begin to fade away. It is the noise of having to prove oneself, of relentlessly chasing new goals, or the thirst to achieve more just to feel worthy. Nothing dramatic happens. Perhaps you are sitting by a window, strolling down a familiar street, or simply resting after a peaceful day. Yet something deep within you has begun to shift. Success still exists, but it no longer possesses the same intense pull as before. Money is still important, but it no longer defines your human value. Achievement now becomes gentler and less hurried. In that softness, a self-arising question emerges. What is truly meaningful now? According to Buddhist wisdom, aging is not a decline, but a journey of turning inward. As excessive striving fades, understanding ripens. The time has come for life to stop demanding that you prove yourself, and instead begin inviting you to understand. As time passes, things once considered essential begin to loosen their grip. Status, titles, and social comparisons gradually lose their inherent luster. The whirlwind of productivity, the obsession with always being busy to appear useful, is no longer a yardstick for self-worth. You suddenly realize that trying to maintain a perfect image in the eyes of the world is a heavy burden. Sometimes, a flicker of regret creeps in when thinking about the youthful years spent exhausting so much energy seeking external approval instead of living fully in the present. However, the teachings of the Buddha remind us that this realization is not a failure, but a sign of wisdom beginning to shine. We often mistake letting go for loss, but in reality, it is a profound relief. As attachment loosens, suffering naturally subsides. Your mind no longer has the need to perform, defend, or compete with anyone. You stop carrying expectations that were never truly yours to begin with. In fact, the exhaustion many feel in their later years does not stem merely from the natural aging of the body. It comes from our attempts to cling to roles, identities, and pressures from old social relationships, even when they have ceased to bring joy to the heart. For instance, continuing to strain yourself as the sole pillar, deciding everything in the family, or keeping up appearances with old friends just to save face. When these masks fall away, a tranquil space emerges. Freedom does not come from accumulating more meaning, but from releasing what is no longer necessary. That is the moment when wisdom makes room for the things that truly matter to speak. As the frantic pace of life recedes, another kind of beauty quietly steps forward. What becomes more important now is not how much you have achieved, but how you experience the days you are living. Peace begins to hold greater value than any social recognition or praise. A quiet morning with a warm cup of tea, a conversation without haste, or a body nurtured with understanding. These now become treasures rather than mere footnotes on the margins of life. Ambition often narrows our vision because it constantly forces us to fixate on what is missing, what must be done next, or what remains incomplete. But in the later years of life, many discover an entirely different kind of richness, which is the sense of enoughness, enough time to listen to one's breath, enough comfort in the soul, and enough sincere connections. The endless hunger for something more gradually subsides, making way for a sense of self-possession that no longer depends on self-improvement or comparison with anyone else. According to Buddhist philosophy, this shift is not accidental. Gratitude and contentment are not the results of life becoming perfect. They are the fruits of practice when the mind stops demanding that life be different from what it is. Joy in this view is not a reward for success, but a natural state that emerges when all resistance vanishes. A minimalist lifestyle begins to prevail over accumulation. Fewer possessions, fewer social obligations, and fewer explanations. Life becomes graceful when it is no longer crowded with the redundant. What remains are the core values: health, presence, kindness, and moments of peaceful awakening. This does not mean you withdraw from the world or lose interest in life, but simply that you are establishing a new relationship with everything around you. Instead of chasing fleeting, intense experiences, you begin to appreciate stability and endurance. Instead of collecting superficial memories, you learn to dwell fully in every moment. The most important thing now is not how brilliant your life looks from the outside, but how warm it feels from within. It is not about how many great deeds you have performed, but how gently you have lived. This gentleness is the manifestation of a mature mind, one that truly knows what is worth holding on to and what it is time to set down to find freedom. In that journey of simplification, the bonds between people also begin to change in a quiet yet deeply meaningful way. The need to maintain vast social networks often fades, making room for a few relationships that are truly sincere and provide nourishment for the soul. This is absolutely not loneliness, but a wise selection by a heart that has learned to treasure its own energy. When the need to perform or impress no longer exists, the flow of affection naturally gravitates toward those with whom we can be our most authentic selves, without any strain or exhaustion. If, in our youth, relationships were often framed by roles and responsibilities, where we connected out of duty or the fear of disappointing someone, then, in the autumn of life, full presence becomes more important than any outward form. You no longer want to expend effort maintaining superficial social ties, but truly wish to experience them with all your heart. Imagine a golden afternoon where two old friends simply sit together on a wooden bench, watching the falling leaves without needing to utter a single word, yet profoundly understanding each other's thoughts. A sincere conversation like that is more precious than hundreds of polite, hollow exchanges. From a Buddhist perspective, a right relationship must be rooted in compassion rather than attachment. Love at this stage is no longer about possession, control, or the desire to be indispensable in the eyes of the other. It becomes an encounter with another soul exactly as they are, without needing them to fill any void within us or prove our worth. This kind of love is quiet yet incredibly deep. It expresses itself through listening more than speaking. When you listen without preparing a response, without judging or trying to fix the other person's problems, you are giving a rare gift, which is pure attention. In Buddhist teachings, this complete presence is a form of generosity or dana. It sends the message that I am here with you without any conditions. Authentic feelings are not built on frantic activities, but on comfort in silence, mutual respect, and the freedom to be honest about one's own limitations. There is no need for further explanation or proof. What remains is warmth, understanding, and a shared humanity. In old age, to love is not to be needed, but to be present. Presence given freely, without grasping or clinging, creates connections that are stable, peaceful, and most deeply human. Alongside the transformation in our relationships, our bodies also begin to change their rhythm. Steps become slower, and energy is no longer overflowing but arrives in waves that ebb and flow. Physical sensations that were once ignored suddenly become more vivid than ever. Typically, the natural human reaction to this change is resistance, frustration, or a quiet sadness born from the belief that the physical form is gradually decaying and breaking down. However, through the lens of Buddhist wisdom, it is this very perception that triggers unnecessary suffering. This body is not an enemy, but a devoted companion that has sheltered and carried you through the ups and downs of many decades. Every ache, every need for rest, or every request for gentle movement is actually a subtle message of communication. The body does not demand that you fix it according to distant standards of youth. It simply wishes for you to listen to it sincerely. The Buddha taught that mindfulness of the body is the very first foundation of wisdom. This means we learn to accept every physical experience with pure awareness instead of harsh judgment. When the body slows down, it is an invitation for the soul to slow down with it. Moments of fatigue that require relaxation are profound lessons in humility and self-compassion. These are not signs of decline but precious teachings that only time can bestow. Resistance only creates more tension, while respect creates peace. When you stop fighting yourself and begin to care for your body with reverence, a powerful internal shift occurs. Simple acts like a very slow exhale to feel the warm air, a gentle stretching exercise, or resting without a shred of guilt become gestures of gratitude. Taking care of oneself in old age is not selfish indulgence, but an acknowledgement of the value of continuing life. Wisdom does not come from forcing the body to do as you wish, but from understanding it. Your body is not breaking down. It is merely asking to be treated in a different way, with patience and deep kindness. When you respond with gentleness, the body becomes a quiet ally on the path of living well. As the timeline of life gradually narrows, the echoes of the past begin to resonate more loudly in the mind. The memories that return are not always joyful. Sometimes they are unfinished stories, moments we wish had gone differently. Regret in the later years of life rarely appears dramatically. It arrives quietly like a lingering ache, like questions starting with the words, "What if?" Many people carry these thoughts in silence, believing it is too late to find reconciliation with themselves. However, according to Buddhist philosophy, suffering does not arise from remembering the past, but from clinging to it, especially clinging to an old identity shaped by guilt, self-blame, or overwhelming disappointment. Our minds repeatedly replay scenes that cannot be changed, hoping for a different ending that will never come. To escape this loop, we must understand that forgiveness is not a denial of what is past, but freedom itself. Forgiveness does not mean you approve of every wrong choice you made in the past, but it is an acknowledgement of the conditions you experienced at that time. You acted with all the understanding, emotional capacity, and limited resources available to you then. Using today's awareness and wisdom to judge your past self is a profound injustice toward a person who was simply trying to survive amidst the storms. Before reaching liberation, allow the heart to pass through a pause of understanding, to realize that all wounds need time to be soothed rather than buried. The Buddha's teaching on non-attachment is not a request for us to forget, but to loosen the mind's grip on pain. Memories can remain without the power to wound. When compassion replaces self-punishment, the fragments of memory become softer. Begin by treating your past self with kindness. Instead of questioning, "Why did I do that?" gently ask, "What was I truly needing then?" Often, hidden beneath mistakes is fear, a longing for love or exhaustion from life's burdens. When these needs are seen and empathized with, judgment naturally dissolves. You do not honor the past by carrying its pain forever. You honor it by learning and allowing yourself to be at peace right now. The past does not need correction, it needs tolerance. And when compassion is present, the heart can finally rest. As we enter the twilight stage of life, uncertainty begins to appear more clearly than ever. The future seems to become unpredictable. Health is no longer a guarantee, and the remaining time is no longer a tangible number. Our common reaction is to try to plan more, to strictly control everything, or to immerse ourselves in anxiety with the hope that certainty will bring a sense of peace. However, Buddhist wisdom offers a gentler truth that peace does not come from securing the future, but from preparing a ready heart. In Buddhist teachings, impermanence is not a frightening threat, but the natural essence of life. Everything transforms, from physical condition and social roles to relationships and even the concept of the self. When we resist this truth, fear grows, but when we learn to accept it, something inside becomes softer and more easeful. Control gradually gives way to trust, not a blind faith in a positive outcome, but a trust in our own capacity to face whatever arises. Preparing the heart means cultivating steadfast qualities even as external circumstances shift. It is patience when healthcare plans do not go as expected. It is kindness when the body faces serious illness, and it is mindful presence when life's questions remain unanswered. These qualities represent a readiness that no financial plan or insurance can replace. Instead of constantly struggling with the question of what will happen to me, Buddhism invites us to reflect on another aspect. How will I receive what is coming? Will we face losses with bitterness or with an open mind, with fear or with compassion? This approach does not mean passivity or giving up. You still take care of your health, still cherish deep relationships and attend to daily life, but the tight grip on how things must unfold according to your will has begun to loosen. You stop rehearsing future scenarios to begin dwelling more fully in the present. The most important thing is not what happens next, but how open your heart remains. A prepared soul can stand firm before uncertainty without collapsing. It can rest even when results are not yet clear, and in that openness, life, despite its many imperfections, becomes fulfilled. A meaningful life is rarely present through loud noises. It is not measured by what you have achieved, the things you have created, or what you have struggled to prove to the world. Instead, that value is defined quietly through the way you treat those around you, the way you are gentle with yourself, and your willingness to let go of what is old. In these later years, you do not need to build up anything more to feel worthy. You only need to learn how to become softer, to release the burdens that no longer serve the peace of your soul, and to rest in what is currently existing. Your worth has never depended on productivity or achievement. It has always resided within you like a flower that naturally releases its own fragrance. Take a moment to look back at what truly brought meaning to the journey you have traveled. Perhaps it was a smile given at the right time, or a moment when you courageously chose peace over being right. I look forward to hearing your sincere reflections in the comments so that we may spread this warmth together. If these shares have helped your heart feel lighter, please join us to continue exploring Buddhist wisdom on the art of mindful living. Ultimately, the essence of a fulfilled life is fundamentally very simple. It is that you have lived, you have loved with all your heart, and you have learned how to smile while letting go.